Welcome to the Matt Report, the #1 WordPress business podcast. This isn't geek speak. It's about the journey of success and failure as a WordPress entrepreneur. Get ready. You're just an episode away from your next aha experience or big idea. And now your host, Matt.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Matt Report. This is the end, almost the end of December 2013. We are quickly approaching 2014. Lots of fun stuff in store for the Matt Report coming up. You haven't seen a formal interview in some time because I'm kind of just relaunching the homepage of Matt Report and sort of getting that Matt Report Pro membership stuff all set up, getting that ready to launch. And that is actually sort of the topic of what I want to talk about today, which is content marketing before shipping your product, or perhaps even while you build your product. You should be creating and cultivating this audience that you can market to when it comes time to launch this product, right? Some of the things we're going to talk about is sort of validating your idea with content marketing, as easy as a blog post, and all the way up to doing full series of videos or podcasts, if that's your thing. Before we get to that, a couple housekeeping things in order. As always, mattreport.com/subscribe. Join the mailing list. Over 1,000 folks now have signed up. Get my emails. Is probably some of the more one-on-one personal things that I do, aside from the podcast, where I'm really reaching out to folks on the newsletter, really trying to help whatever it is that you might need help with, and giving you all the sort of the insights to the different podcast episodes or blog posts that I've made. Really some great stuff going on there. Something that I just recently launched right before Christmas, actually Christmas Eve, is wpmentor.org. So if you're somebody who wants to be a mentor in the WordPress community, go ahead and give that a once over. You can sign up, become a mentor. Or if you're somebody who's looking to find a mentor, you can go there as well and sign up as a mentee, and maybe some mentors can find you that way. Really just testing out the product, and like I said, or the idea, like I said, this is a great sort of post. This is actually how I thought of writing this post, is how I kind of came up with the WP Mentor stuff. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive in to talking about content marketing before shipping your product. So I was on a pre-sales call the other day for some of the consulting stuff that I do here on the Matt Report, and talking to a potential client, and they asked me, they said, do you do content marketing campaigns? Can you, oversee my team's content marketing campaign? And I had to take a step back and put them on pause for a little bit and just say, look, pay-per-clicks is a campaign. Impression ads on Facebook is a campaign. Maybe some of this podcasting stuff that I can help you out with, they wanted to create some video series. Maybe we can even look at that as a campaign. But you can't look at content marketing creation or content creation in general as just this campaign, this thing that you do versus this expression of who you are or what your company is all about, right? This stuff is really driven by passion, right? So I do the Matt Report because I'm passionate about talking about this stuff. And, none of the content is, like from a stencil, right? I'm not just grabbing a stencil from my drawer and tracing the lines of something and say, okay, boom, here's a blog post. Boom, here's a podcast. No, this stuff is all either coming to me as my experiences, as we go through our experiences, or I'm, dealing with new situations, and I'm kind of relaying sort of the ins and the outs of that situation with you, with the audience. This stuff is all sort of natural, right? When it comes to you with what you're passionate about. And I think that most of the issue comes from folks looking at it is, I just have to do this and people will come, right? And that's not, that's not how it works, right? People aren't going to come to your site or review your product, unless you're putting out something that is great, right? We all hear that. You have to put out great content. We know that. We have to put out something that is compelling. Why are they going to look at this? Why are they going to watch this? Why are they going to download this podcast? And, most of the time, it has to be informative, right? They have to. Why are we going to listen to something? Why are you listening to me for 30 minutes or 40 minutes at a time if you're not learning something from it? But the bottom line is it has to be authentic, right? This has to be something that, you're coming at it from a different angle, hence WordPress entrepreneurship, right? There are the typical entrepreneur that we all hear from, Silicon Valley, so on and so forth, big markets, putting out, iPhone apps and making billions of dollars. Okay, that's great. But, what about the common person? What about the person who's, not going to go after VC funding, that kind of thing? Well, WordPress seems like a great platform to kind of build this business on. Sure, it's that same kind of thing. Might grow to that scale, who knows? But in the short term, in the year 2013, 2014, we're seeing some good sized businesses coming out of WordPress with themes and plugins and services. It's a great place to be. So it has to be this authentic, unique angle, right? Not everything is a winner, that's for sure. Not every I've done interviews where I thought this is going to be the most popular interview ever, and it wasn't. It was a single, right? Then there are other interviews that I've done, which I was like, hey, I don't even think anyone's going to relate to this person, and it became a home run. You think sort of the big names are really going to do really great, but in the at least in terms of podcasting and sort of promotional stuff, it's not always the case. Folks like to hear that kind of unique story. So, how can we entrepreneurs do this content marketing thing and do it right while we start? Well, a lot of folks that I talk to are in the early stages of launching a product, whether it be WordPress or whatever it might be. And now is the time that you want to start creating this content, right? You don't want to wait until the product is done, right? Now, of course, there's some logistic things, right? Hey, I'm either working a full-time job while I'm building this product. I don't have time to be blogging daily or, doing podcasting and things like that. Well, that's okay. We're going to look at some examples of some things that you can do that aren't as taxing on your time or doesn't require you to be so involved with that. And it's all about sort of growing this little media empire, right? Today it's so easy to do podcasting, as I'm doing here, or to do a daily blog, or to do a lot of Twitter and social media stuff. It's easy to do all this stuff, but it's picking the right one that's important, and it's doing it where you're not just giving to just one channel, right? Sure, you can start with one channel, but my advice would be to sort of grow this little empire so that you have these different channels or avenues that you can reach your audience. First one is blog post, right? Everyone says it. I've been saying it for a while. Blogging daily or blogging about your business is like the number one content marketing thing that you can do. Think of your blog too as not just 800 words or 2,000 words of text. Think of it as video, photos, feedback with blog posts, list building when you connect it to your MailChimp account, something like that. Use it as your platform to own the content, to own the brand. Don't just think of every blog post as just some text that you're just pushing out there for hoping for people to read. Think of it really as your central hub for everything. The WP Mentor came from a blog post that I made, and it was just, talking about my experiences, my feelings of being a mentor at a local community college, and sort of how it's helped the college, how it's helped the students, and how it's helped improve my life as being a mentor, being able to give back to these young students that are just coming up. And it had some great comments in the blog, in that post, right? People were connecting with each other. They were saying, hey, I'll be a mentor, or hey, I'm looking for some help. And a few people started making connections. I was getting a bunch of emails privately from people who were sort of afraid to say that they were looking for help. And some of the folks were actually afraid to say that they wanted to be a mentor, afraid that they might get too many emails or whatever. So I said, you know what, it's time. Now this idea is validated, right? So I saw that mentorship is something that folks seem to want in the WordPress space. So I launched WP Mentor, did it really quick, took me a couple hours. I launched it actually Christmas Eve, and I just put it out there. And I think so far, almost 20 people have signed up to either be a mentor or to be a mentee looking for help. And it's been great. I get some great feedback, and I hope it's going to do some amazing things. But that's my minimal viable product, right? I validated the idea with a blog post, much like you could do with your product or business idea. Put it out there. See if people start engaging with it. Are they reposting it? Are they tweeting it out? Are they leaving comments in below the post? And if they're making a connection, you validated your idea. You can even gauge design feedback on Instagram, and I think that Brian Gardner is probably the most popular for doing this, and he's always posting sort of these new designs for Genesis and StudioPress themes. And this is the same thing with you. You could be posting mock-ups or wireframes of your new design. If you're creating themes, you can give sort of these previews, even a series of previews leading up to the launch, and getting that feedback from the audience and using that as one of your driving channels. And it's very easy. How do you get feedback on that? Well, you can either get comments or how many likes do you get, right? Don't forget, Instagram can be connected with Facebook, so you can make sort of this connection and grow that channel times 2 by being on Instagram and by being on Facebook. So pretty cool little idea there. And for anybody who's building WordPress themes or doing some design stuff, it's a perfect channel for you, right? Because it's meant to be for photos and sort of pretty things, right? And you're not sort of spamming people by doing that, because the audience there expects that kind of content to be there, right? So it's a great channel for you. Screencasts for beta plugins, right? So if you have a plugin that you're just building and you are still in the early stages, it might not be ready yet for the general public to consume, doing a screencast and showing people how the plugin works, what the option panel looks like, what happens when they install it, sort of getting that behind the scenes feel for the software before you get it out there is another great way, right? And, load up ScreenFlow, which I've posted about before. Record your screen, post it to YouTube, and, it doesn't have to be long, 3 minutes, 5 minutes tops. Just showing little bits and pieces as you're growing this idea, as you're building this product. Give those early adopters in your audience this insight to how it's going to work. Again, great way to get feedback, great way to grow an audience. You get subscribers on YouTube. And when the time comes to launch, hey, you've now, if it takes you 6 months to launch from start to finish, in 6 months, I think we built our Slocum channel to, probably about 1,000 subscribers. Not bad. And there could be plenty of room to grow that depending on how many videos you put out. But think about it. You go to launch your product and now you have 1,000 subscribers that you can, release that gold copy to. So that's pretty cool. Something else that's interesting, and talking to folks, some other folks the other day, are sort of in the same boat. Like, they don't even have a product. They're not even at the stages of wireframing yet. They're sort of just still, sticking their thumb in the air and checking the wind. Where's the wind blowing? Is this really going to work for a market? And I say, start doing some Hangouts, right? Start doing some Google Hangouts, some live video, or even recorded, because it can be recorded, and just have that conversation, right? This is like the poor man's podcasting, right? You don't need any fancy equipment. Load up Google Hangouts, talk with your business partner, record your screen, or show some slides of your idea, and really give people that early stage insight to what you're doing. And then you'll know right off the bat if people are chiming in and they're commenting and they're saying, "No, this is crazy. I don't think you could ever sell this," or "Wow, this is great. We really want to be involved with this. We can't wait for this to launch." It's a great way to get that feedback and to grow that audience, right? So definitely take a look at that. If you don't have a product, it doesn't mean you can't you can't be marketing some form of content, right? And you can do that, just like I said, from the early days. Just start chatting about it and hitting the old record button and pushing that out to social media. So what I really want you to do is build this media empire, right? Big or small. Doesn't really matter. One channel, many channels. I say many channels if you can, at the very least 2, and take a look at what's working for you right now. Is it Twitter? If it's Twitter, let's focus on that, right? Let's grow more followers. Let's publish, more content out that way. Connect and engage with more people on Twitter, and grow that channel. Is it Facebook groups? Facebook groups. At first, I didn't really like them, but I've been engaged in a few Facebook groups lately, and they're starting to come around and find some really good engagement, metrics in that space. but focus on at least a couple, right? And create this content to publish and distribute in those channels. And like I said, use your blog, use your WordPress site as your home base for all of this content, and you'll be able to produce some great results. If anything, what you're going to do is help validate these ideas. So you're not alone. If you're a solopreneur, it's tough to get feedback because you're just doing it yourself. So if you can kind of grow this audience from the beginning, things will be a little bit better for you in the long run. So don't be afraid to hit publish. You can do a lot or you can do a little. Either way, start growing that media empire in whatever fashion you can. I would like to hear your thoughts on content marketing. You can go over to the blog post, leave a comment there. As always, you can shoot me an email, mattreportblog@gmail.com. We can have a one-on-one discussion. mattreport.com/subscribe. Join the mailing list. Thanks, everybody.